We are talking The Devil's Familiar. This one written and directed by Kieran Edwards. Now this technically would be classed as a short film. It is only just less than an hour. And to be a feature you have to be over 71 minutes officially speaking. So this technically is a long short film and it's a found footage with a apparently zero budget by the looks of it. What's the story? So we have two students that are making their kind of final project and they are investigating this kind of murder that happened some years previously in the forest, which was there was a woman arrested, but there was kind of sayings that there may well be some type of animal attack. And they start off in kind of Blair Witch fashion, going around kind of interviewing people, including a zoologist and kind of the brother of one of the murdered people. Those two guys actually end up joining them to an expedition in the woods where it all happened, and inevitably they come across maybe more than they would expect. What'll happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So this is a textbook kind of, low budget found footage movie, not really seeing anything, and the only things we do see are right at the end of the movie. Let's talk about what works first of all. I think found footage is kind of a way to go if it is a zero budget movie. The idea of having this kind of the student film, we have our characters kind of introduced as students at the beginning of the movie, even giving their student numbers, which I thought was kind of quite a neat touch. It's an okay idea. It's not something that is terribly original, but it was okay, and the mythology that's set up here. Again, it's nothing you've not seen before, but it was fairly kind of standard stuff, a kind of a murder with kind of mysterious kind of overtones. And then we have this kind of, it could be one of these kind of like these wild cats in England. We don't really have a lot of dangerous wildlife, but there's always kind of rumours that there may well be these kind of like loose kind of big cats that have kind of got out of zoos and things like this, and that's kind of where I thought it might be going. But it kind of goes into a little bit more of a supernatural element as well. And then we kind of come to the end. I would say that's spoiling anything. This is kind of really where we get our kind of reveals, and it has the kind of like what's actually kind of going on, which I found to be bigger than expected. I'll say that. And there's quite a reasonable scene at the end without kind of giving anything away, where we kind of discover what's actually kind of going on. So it's kind of it's very like a zero budget movie. The plot is really paper thin here, so I can't really say too many things about it because I don't want to give away what plot there is. But it is kind of an extremely low budget movie. Everything about this screams low budget, from the kind of the acting, where it's a mixed bag at the best of times, I would say. I think some sequences were okay. The acting seemed all right, but there are other times as well where the acting, again, it seems like there wasn't much script. There was probably basic instructions about what the subject should be, but the actual kind of what was said was largely left up to the actors. That's the impression that I've got, because that's what it feels like, because it feels like people are struggling to come up with things to say. It's not kind of they're thinking, what would my character say in this kind of situation on the spot, if that makes sense. So the acting seems kind of somewhat kind of forced at times, and there are some actors that go way over the top. There's a couple of the interviews earlier on where I feel the actors are kind of like a little bit kind of OTT. The movie's kind of bookended with scenes of police watching this kind of found footage, but that's filmed in a normal way, so it kind of isn't found footage in those sequences, which is an odd choice. The movie also makes mistakes by having, for example, the record button flash and things like this, and the low battery sign. Now that thing shows up on the viewfinder, but it doesn't show up on the actual film. It's like I'm talking to you now. You're not going to see any of that on the screen, but it might well come up on the viewfinder. But I always wonder why found footage movies put that on there. That is never the case on a kind of a video. The kind of the reveal itself, I think, although that's the most impressive thing about the movie, we do kind of get a kind of a creature, but that's poorly done. I wouldn't have even had that in there, if I'm completely honest. There's actually kind of two things that are revealed, and we do have a kind of a creature, and we have something else as well. The creature I maybe would have not bothered with, because I think that actually detracts from any type of immersion, because it is kind of weak without kind of giving anything away. But the other thing was handled a little better. But that could have been sewn a little bit more into the plot about giving you that maybe hints about maybe what's to have come, and maybe a larger conspiracy. So I think this movie, the plot is kind of serviceable, although it's nothing particularly new. And for a very low budget film, I've seen worse. The movie is, because it's so short, goes at a reasonable pace, but it honestly isn't anything. I mean, it's okay for a student film, if that's what it, you know, probably was originally. But I don't know if someone would feel comfortable buying this as a commercial movie, if that makes sense, because I just don't feel there's enough there. It's okay for a kind of a starting point for a filmmakers. You know, I've seen worse, let me put it like that. But I'll give it a 3 out of 10, because I honestly don't think someone who wants to watch this because they would fancy watching a horror film one night will get a lot out of it, because you've seen this done a million times before. The film doesn't do anything new with the genre, and instead just kind of relies on old tropes that you've seen plenty of times in horror films, and kind of doesn't take advantage of maybe ways that it could have expanded the mythology when it had the chance. So it's a 3 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing it next time. Bye for now.